Hi, the SI meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday, October 31st. Slow improvement continues here in the Mid-Atlantic region and the northeastern part of the country as the remains of Sandy continues to weaken as it pulls to the north. It's moving towards the southeastern part of Canada right now. There's still some strong winds associated with the remains of Sandy, mostly on its west side, on the cold side over the Great Lakes, screaming out of the north to the south. We heard yesterday there was some strong wave action near Chicago from Lake Michigan with some of those strong northerly winds pounding the coastline there. The storm will continue to weaken and move away, and we'll have slow improvement here, but there's so much low-level moisture remaining behind. There will be quite a bit of cloud cover for the next couple of days. We'll gradually get increasing amounts of sunshine as we head towards the weekend. There can even be some sunny intervals today. But along with that possibility, there can be a shower or two at just about any time through tonight. Let's have a little recap of the storm surge that occurred on Monday with the approach and the landfall of Hurricane Sandy before we get to the current weather situation. First of all, Monday morning, Sandy was still Category 1 storm sitting right here off the coast, and in kind of an unprecedented fashion, it suddenly took a left turn towards the coast, made landfall just south of Atlantic City in about this region right here Monday evening. Now, winds flow counterclockwise around low pressure areas, so they were coming screaming out of the east north of the low, and then envision a west or northwest flow south of where the low made landfall on Wednesday evening. Now, last week emphasized the fact that it looked like this storm would approach the New Jersey coastline in a perpendicular fashion. In fact, that's what happened, and that played certainly part of a role in the extreme storm surge that occurred north of the landfall, because as the storm picks up speed, and it really picked up some speed on Monday, it made landfall moving in at about 27, 28 miles per hour. That forward motion is kind of has an additive effect to the winds on the north side of where it made landfall, because the forward motion in the same direction as these winds coming right out of the east. So the worst of the storm surge occurred from the point of landfall north, where the winds were perpendicular to the coastline, and again the forward motion of the storm kind of had an additive effect, a worsening effect to the storm surge from landfall and points to the north. Meanwhile, on the south side of this landfall, the winds were coming out of the other direction on the south side of the hurricane, so things fared much better in Cape May County right here and Delaware coastal region right here, because there's kind of a negating effect with these westerly winds on the south side of landfall on Monday afternoon and Monday evening. Meanwhile, New York City was just in a terrible situation in terms of the wind direction. The wind direction was such that it was at such an angle, the worst possible angle here, that it pushed water into the Long Island Sound and pushed water towards the New York Harbor for hours on end. Strong winds up to 90 plus miles per hour were recorded in several places along Long Island. All three New York City airports registered hurricane force winds. 68 miles per hour was a reading in Philadelphia International Airport. But again, just the terrible wind direction here out of the east or east-northeast for several hours on end contributed to the terrible situation in the New York City region. And again, from the point of landfall and north along the New Jersey coast, you had the additive effect of the forward motion moving perpendicular to the coastline with the east winds ripping out of the east. And of course, there were 80, 90 mile per hour wind gusts right up and down the New Jersey coast. So that's just kind of a little recap on the storm surge that occurred with this particular storm. Meanwhile, inland a little bit, Chester County here and Delaware County actually fared better in southeastern Pennsylvania than did Bucks and Montgomery County, which right here. And really the only explanation I can come up with for that is a little bit farther away from where the storm was strongest, right here near landfall. So Chester County and Delaware County a little bit farther from the coastline compared to Bucks County, for example, and perhaps the storm weakened just a little bit more by the time it reached that part of southeastern Pennsylvania, giving them a little bit less in the way of extreme wind gusts. There was a wind gust reported up to 76 miles per hour at in Bensalem, which is Bucks County, and like I said earlier, 68 miles per hour in right at the Philadelphia airport in South Philadelphia. Well, here's the current map with the isobars here, and the remains of Sandy have weakened. It's kind of a couple different areas of low pressure. This is probably the main area right now. It's moving into southeastern Canada. Still, again, a lot of isobars and a lot of wind on the west side or cold side of this storm, the remains of the storm. Anyway, there's still winds ripping out of the north over the Great Lakes from Michigan over to Wisconsin. Again, yesterday there were quite a bit of high waves here in Lake Michigan into the Chicago region, the shoreline near Chicago, for example. Not much wind left on the east or southeast side of this particular system, and just some scatter precipitation. Some of this here in central and western Pennsylvania is in the form of snow. Last hour, Pittsburgh was 32 degrees with a mix of light rain and snow. State College was 34 degrees. Still light rain, but certainly they can see some flakes. And for the most part, just some scattered areas of precipitation with the remains of Sandy. Here's the latest infrared satellite loop. Large area of clouds again, but not all that much heavy precipitation right now. There's still some thicker clouds and some heavy precipitation way up in northern New England in the form of rain and in the southeastern part of Canada. But still a lot of northerly flow here on the west side. This will just continue to slowly weaken over the next couple of days, and we'll have mostly cloudy skies here in the mid-Atlantic region and northeastern part of the country for the next couple of days, although there can be some intervals of sunshine along with the threat of a shower or two. But the sunshine should increase in frequency as we approach the weekend, and again, it looks like the decent weather, albeit on the cool side, will continue right through the weekend. The next threat of any storm looks like it comes later Tuesday night, or Wednesday. Something looks like it'll develop along the mid-Atlantic coast and then the northeast coast. It's still a little too early to tell if that will in fact stay off the coast or indeed have some kind of an effect on our weather here in the mid-Atlantic and northeast U.S. late Tuesday night into Wednesday. It is of somewhat of a concern because there will be plenty of cold air around, and that precipitation could be in the form of snow if it happens up in New England especially. So we'll monitor that over the next several days. But tranquil weather here right through the weekend here in the mid-Atlantic and northeast, allowing for a slow recovery to begin. Meanwhile, out in the west, quite warm, pleasant weather out in the Rocky Mountain region. Denver, Colorado, for example, today could hit the mid-70s. Quite cool right along the U.S. West Coast. Well, that's it for now. For the SIweather.com, I'm the SI meteorologist, Paul Dorian.